Yo, welcome to Religiously Incorrect Podcast. We are live with another edition of Sunday Night Service. Welcome one, welcome all. I'm your host, Pastor Todd. And once again, unfortunately, I am missing my friend, my brother, my co-host, Pastor Jeff Stanford. He's got one of those persistent coughs going on. You know that one that I had that I just kept doing the show with and was coughing on everybody? He's got it now, and he's got enough sense not to put the germs on us. But I do have a very special guest. I want to introduce him in just a minute. But first, I want you to like, to share, to comment, to let somebody know that you're watching. Make sure you tag somebody. Tell them to tap in. It's going to be a good show, a wonderful edition of Sunday Night Service. Hope you had a great week. I hope you had good church. And if you are supposed to be in church right now, turn your phone off and get back to the altar. Because you know where you're supposed to be. The mothers are waiting on you. But we have a special guest co-host today. He'll be not only co-hosting and chopping it up with me, but I'll be talking with him about a very special subject. I want all of you out there in religiously incorrect land to welcome my deacon, your deacon, everybody's deacon, Deacon G, Shawn Willoughby. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well, Pastor.
Man, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
In my territory. Over here in the podcast world.
This is perfect.
This is perfect. Mm-hmm. We're going to have a good time. I really do appreciate, knowing Deke for so long. It's been past my pastor at a second. We've known each other for a while, and he's some kind of guy, and I appreciate you, man. I really appreciate you. But we got to open up the show like we always do, and that's talking about what's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing going on more than the coronation of King Charles III. Brother, they did it all. They did it all. They had choirs. They had a processional in a solid gold carriage. Now, first of all, I can't wait for next year's prom. Because somebody is going to have a solid gold carriage. Soldiers. I mean, it was, it was all of the stuff you see in the movies and then some. And I said on Facebook last night, and my bishop, my spiritual father tapped in. I said, all you preachers that are getting any ideas out of this, please don't.
I agree.
Please don't. Because the anniversary is already over the top. We're already sitting in living rooms. Bring that close. There we go. We're already sitting in living rooms on the side of the church. You know, I've seen some with bearskin rugs.
Right.
I've seen a couple of videos of preachers being carried in on stilts and everything else. We don't need any more.
But there's always going to be one.
There's always one. Yeah, they're going to crown him.
Correct.
Lord of Lords. But is this not, Grove? Is this not the saddest looking king and queen? Put that picture up, Big Mike. Is this not the saddest looking king and queen? Oh my. Oh my. What does that picture say to you?
That's pretty bad.
Just let that marinate.
That's pretty bad.
Just let that marinate. That's
well, kind of looks like they ain't gonna be in charge too long.
Hey, don't put the coronation decorations away.
Yeah, somebody else gonna be needing them.
Somebody else is gonna be needing. It's like having two graduates right after each other in school. Just put it in the front of the garage.
Yeah.
These helmets, these crowns, they literally look like, what was that tiger, the king of the jungle from the cartoons that used to have a crown on?
Yeah.
They look fake.
Yeah.
They look fake. And
the diamonds they stole from Africa.
The diamonds.
Correct.
Well, let's not get started on the whole bloody diamond.
My bad.
Everything they have. Well, it's the truth. It's the truth. And I mean, they just look sad. And this is like the best picture we could find. This is the best picture we could find of them. I mean, I think he's wearing like is that some kind of bear skin?
That's a Dalmatian fur.
That's a Dalmatian fur.
That he got on.
He got 101 Dalmatians on right now with their Burger King crowns on. But I got to add something else to this. This is probably inappropriate, but here we go. This woman to his right.
His wife.
You know, she is the inspiration of side chicks everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody at home is saying, see, they've been putting me down for messing around with married men. I could be queen too.
I could be queen too.
I mean, you could take, I don't want to see this anymore, Mike. I mean, you're going to be queen of the ghetto, but you're not going to be the queen of England.
Correct.
But she really did start from the bottom.
Yeah, she fell in the gold mine.
So what do y'all think? I'm watching y'all comments. What do y'all think, y'all?
You see Tatum's?
What did Tatum say? Put up Tatum. You just gotta make it happen for me today.
It said we're rolling up, and the gold carriage sitting on 52s for the pastors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, we are. Without shame. Without shame. Rolling up on 52s for the past anniversary. Janice said they look like they're kin to Biden. If the Bidens were king and queen,
That's what
this
they
is
would
what
look
they
like.
look like. This is what they look like. Yeah. That kind of stuff is, again, the stuff of movies. I thought we had elaborate inaugurations.
Correct.
In the United States of America, because we haven't seen a coronation in like 70 years or something since the Elizabeth, which, they had just invented TV.
Right.
They had just invented TV. And the other quiet side of this story is, what's my man that married the sister? Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Prince Harry. I couldn't find a picture of him that he looked happy in.
Well, he was gone already.
Yeah. He was. He left the service early.
Yeah.
He slipped out an offering.
He raised his finger and said, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
He bounced early.
Yeah.
He bounced early, and Sister Megan, missionary Megan, she didn't even show up.
No.
She didn't even show up. She wasn't wanted anyway.
No.
They weren't ready for the chocolate frosty.
No.
And they're probably better off in America, even though they're wearing out their welcome here too. But I mean, talk about a palace intrigue. I hope this is the last king, queen coronation we ever have to see. But again, pastors, please don't. No thrones, no crowns, no Dalmatian cloaks, no golden carriages, no thousands of soldiers. None of that. I mean, it's we're gonna do it though. We're gonna do it. And I'm sorry, y'all, I got to read our comments. We have a little glitch, so I got to on here. Rosalind asked if he passes, who will be his successor? I guess his the other son, William.
No, the side chick.
No. She doesn't get to be. She's just the queen. She doesn't get to be. She's not in the lineage. You have to be in the lineage.
Okay.
That's why I went from mother to son.
Okay.
And then to go to son again.
Then it'd be Prince William.
It'd be Prince William, who was bald when he was 13 years old.
Right.
10.
and he is not the precious one. Oh, Janice said no mime at the coronation. There will be no mimes. You all know how I am. I am astutely anti-mime, anti-dance, anti-flag. Even though we do it in our church, I'm going to produce legislation sooner or later to ban. And I'm surprised that there wasn't some kind of mime presentation. Now, this was the first in coronation, they said, where they had a bunch of other faiths present.
Okay.
So they had like a Jewish, what do you call it, rabbi. They had a Muslim imam. They had a Buddhist, whatever. And you do know, by the way, that King Charles is officially the head of the church.
Correct.
He is the head of the church, meaning I want to know if this brother can preach.
Well,
I want to know.
I know looks can be deceiving.
Looks can be deceiving. You think he got a hoop?
But the way he looked on that balcony,
He ain't got no word.
he ain't got nothing.
He ain't got no word.
He looked like he was ready to go to sleep then.
They're probably keeping him awake with pills and everything else.
Correct.
Yeah. So, hey, listen, black people, just remember, none of this is for us. Just remember that. This is our friends on the other side of the pond reminding us of who they are. And again, as Mike said, with the pillaged riches of every other country in the world. And this is just how we have to deal with it. This is what it is. So, hey, y'all leave your coronation comments in the chat box. Again, I can't put them up on screen tonight, but y'all know how it be. This is the most ghetto podcast anyway. So sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off. But while we're here, we might as well get ready for Meme of the Week.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
I am
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
We thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
We are, these are all jokes. We are just playing.
All right, so this particular meme is another video meme. And you guys know I've been enjoying these. I've been enjoying the video memes more than the pictures. This is another unique gospel performance that is coming to a church near you. Hit it, Mike.
They're going to sing for you is the devil's in the phone booth dialing 911. Come up here, ladies, and bless these people.
Well, the devil's in the phone booth, dialing 911. Well, the church is on their knees and they're loading up the spiritual gun. Well, the devil thought he had us, but the tables are turned, and now he's on the run. The devil's in the phone booth, dialing 911.
Okay, so we might have to play this again because I was lost at the Jerry Lee Lewis intro. I thought I was listening to Great Balls of Fire for a minute there. I mean,
That's where it was going.
It came in hot.
That's where it was going.
It came in hot, and I was getting ready for it, and then the devil was in the phone booth.
Yeah, it ended out cold.
It ended out cold. It died with a whimper.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, you guys don't know one of the secret aggravations of preachers. But we get emails and phone calls all the time from groups like these that want to come minister at our church. Believe it or not, you cannot imagine the number of Southern gospel quartets and duets like these beautiful sisters here who send us emails and say, we're going to be in your area next month and we'll come just for a free will offering. And the more I listen to this, play it again, Mike, and just leave me unmuted because I need to talk about it. We need to talk about it. The more
they're going to sing for you
first of
is
all,
the devil's in the phone booth dialing
buckets of
911. Come
charisma.
up here, ladies, and bless these people.
Buckets of, here we go. She's looking for the cue.
Well, the devil's in the phone booth, dialing 911.
Side. Singing one of the golden
Well, the
girls.
church is on their knees and they're loading up the spiritual gun.
I'm bothered by the mismatched mics, to be honest.
Well, the devil thought he had us, but the tables are turned, and now he's on the run. The devil's in the phone booth, dialing 911.
All right. Okay, listen. I know that people want to get creative with the lyrics, but I don't know. I don't know of a scripture. Was that progressive? Jeff, you better get out here and defend your church. He said, was that the live stream from Progressive when Pastor Jeff was on leave? Pastor Stanford, Scott's calling you out. Listen, you know, and I've been talking about how lyrics are going, you know, off the rails nowadays. I once listened to a gospel rap song about shooting demons with machine guns. You know, I've heard some songs that are too sexy. You know, making love to Jesus now. But the devil in the phone booth calling 911. First of all, who still has a phone booth?
Correct.
Why?
Yeah.
Why doesn't the devil have a cell phone?
Yeah.
I mean, at least because they tell. I mean, I know as a parent, it appears to me that the devil invented cell phones,
right?
And he's using them against us.
So he has to have one.
He has to have one because we know the devil is the CEO of Facebook, TikTok,
right,
Twitter, Instagram, and all the bad things that are wrong with the world. So why is he in the phone booth? And what is 911 gonna do?
Because if you're in the phone booth, you can't. You need a quarter.
You need a quarter.
You need a quarter.
You need a quarter to make that call. Listen, you need to be able to get through it. What is the operator gonna do? You know, I mean, that would be a prank call. You know, if somebody did call and say they were the devil, Big Mike.
I mean, but if the devil's in the phone booth, wouldn't you get out instead of calling 911?
Yeah. This back. Tatum calls this backcountry karaoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
It's the trailer park gospel is what this is. So listen, send us your memes of the week. Send us what you got. If you have a meme, now listen, I'm not guaranteed to put your meme up. Most of the time we just ignore them, but send them anyway. And if they're amusing to you, we've probably seen them 3 years ago, but that's okay. Send it to religiouslyincorrectpodcast@gmail.com and we'll take a look at it. I think I got a good one for next week already. But in the meantime, stay away from any phone booths that you happen to see the devil in.
Amen.
You know, I haven't seen a working phone booth in about 20 years, but if they say he's in one, then I believe
Don't go near it.
Don't go near it.
Don't go near it.
Don't go. Stay away. And when's the last time you could go in a phone booth, like inside?
Exactly.
That's okay. All right, I'm gonna stop breaking this down. This is terrible. We want to thank our sponsors tonight, the Phillips Family of businesses, Phillips Care Lawn Services. If your yard looks as bad as mine, you need to call my man Fernando at Phillips Care, because we are in that Ohio season of rain, go away. And I had to go out there, try to cut my grass. Almost got stuck in the mud. And now I got a half-cut yard, and it rained again.
That time of year.
Listen, somebody's about to call the councilman on me. I don't know who he is, but I'm about to get a complaint letter. So if you want to avoid that, call Phillips Care 3307-219-7916. Tell them Religiously Incorrect sent you. You will likely not get a discount, but tell them anyway. And while you're at it, check out Phillips Care Cleaning Service. They do it all. I told you last week how nasty your house is. Call them. They will help you out. They'll clean your funky carpets. They will take care of maintenance all around your house. They even do move in and move out services, deep cleaning. You know what? I really do think they're one of those companies that no matter what you call them for and ask them if they can do it, they'll just say yes and just figure it out with a YouTube video. But they're good. So check them out. Give them a call. Look them up on Facebook, Phillips Care LLC on Facebook, and we thank them so much. If you'd like to be a sponsor of Religiously Incorrect Podcast and reach our millions of viewers all across the galaxy, all you have to do is send an email to religiouslyincorrectpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll reach out to you. We might even have a special going for the springtime. Who knows? Start you off on some. We got any special rates going?
We'll work something out.
Yeah, we were going to get Burger King as a sponsor, but apparently they're having some hard times right now. You notice when one king ascended, another king went down? Did you notice that? Did you notice the poetry of that?
That's their problem. They didn't advertise with
They did not advertise.
Right.
If Burger King had advertised, we would have saved their business.
Right.
Correct.
Exactly.
The whole downtown Warren would have still been smelling like frame boiled burgers. I missed that smell too. I didn't think it was real, but apparently it is. Well, Deacon.
Yes, sir.
Phillips Care. He said Phillips Care phone booth repair.
Scott is on one tonight. It's been a while though. Welcome, Scott. Welcome back.
Scott, you've been in that yak. I don't know what you've been doing. But we are here talking. Here's the subject of our show tonight, y'all. Front row seat. Front row seat with my man, Deacon G, Shawn Willoughby. And I want to thank you again for being on as our co-host. Thank you for coming in to chop it up. We want to talk about what it means, what the experience is, and the good, the bad, and the hilarious of being a church deacon. Mm-hmm. Now, I have to give a disclaimer at the very beginning of this. When I was coming up, our church did not emphasize at an early age, at least that I could understand, the deacon ministry. We didn't emphasize. We were a non-denominational church, so we had pastor, we had elders, and perhaps ministers, but I didn't hear much or see much in the way of deacon work. So I wasn't raised, and now I'm the pastor of the Second Baptist Church, where the deacon ministry has a long legacy.
Yeah.
Sometimes notoriously so.
Sometimes.
Legacy in the traditional Baptist church, which honestly, I love it. Mm-hmm. And I mean that with all my heart. I love it. The devotions, the prayer meetings, knowing what to do and when to do, participating in communion. I mean, I'm almost like, where have you been all my life? You know, because again, that was not a major function in my early childhood of ministry, even though I was very ingrained in church. And I find it intriguing. I find it interesting. I find it a little bit funny. But I want you to tell us, Deacon, a little bit about your journey. You're not that old. You're actually, you be a young man by Deacon standards. You're still considered a young man. Tell us about when you got called to be a deacon, about what age you were, and what you felt and thought about when your pastor, my predecessor, the great Reverend Dr. Frank Hearns, called you into the ministry.
Well, I grew up in Second. And, growing up in Second, those old deacons that we had back then, I don't know what it was, but I said, man, when I get older, I want to be like these guys. So, I looked at how they did certain things, good or bad.
Right.
And matter of fact, in 2000 and next year, I'll be a deacon at Second for 19 years.
Woo!
But I just wanted, sometimes you just want to be something at the church. Not that,
right.
You bossing anybody around or you can tell people what to do, but from a leadership standpoint. So I had told you just the other day that I started off in leadership at Second as a trustee.
Okay.
And I didn't put a doorknob, cut no grass, mop no floor.
Nothing, huh?
Lifted no chair. I didn't do nothing. So, and I actually got sat down.
Okay.
Because at that time, me and my wife now, at the time, we were shacking up.
Shacking. I ain't heard that in a while.
So they sat me down. So I didn't get mad. I didn't get bent out of shape. Moved to Phoenix, came back. So for those 5 months I was gone, I went to one church.
Uh-huh.
And it was kind of like the phone booth church.
The phone booth church.
And that I'm not used to that.
Right.
So when I came back, I said, boy, I talked to my pastor at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I said, Doc, I don't know what I want to do. But I don't know if I want to be trustee or deacon, but I said, I'd really point towards being a trustee, but I think I'm ready.
Okay.
He says, well, he said, we got time
to
make a decision.
Yeah.
Okay. So I come to business meeting.
Yeah. The infamous business meeting.
And he saw my name and he had put me in training. So I was kind of set back because I'm like, I ain't told him.
He put you in training to be a deacon.
Correct.
After you had a conversation about being a trustee.
Correct. I said, I ain't talked to him about
classic
being
pastor behavior.
No deacon.
Right.
But I said, you know what? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe God has a plan for me that I don't know about.
Right.
And I'm just going to go on from there.
Right. You said when you saw the older deacons coming up, now, I've only heard stories about our church and others, about some of the preeminent deacons that sort of, and I think every church has these. Every Black Baptist church has either living or maybe they've gone to rest by now, either that person or that group of deacons that just sets the stage, sets the standard, and sometimes good or bad.
Yeah.
Sets the standard, and they're just names that if you'd have to have been there to know it or get told the story. And who were some of those deacons for you? I mean, just that you looked up to them as a young man coming into church, just like towering figures, like my boys now. They're young and they're looking up to y'all.
Right.
So who was it then for you?
And just like you said, good or bad, but there was Deacon Warfield.
Okay.
Deacon Davis. We had two Deacon Browns.
Okay.
Deacon Charles Brown and Deacon Robert Brown. Deacon Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a kid with Deacon McLaughlin.
Okay.
Who it's been said and told that Deacon McLaughlin was a good man.
Uh-huh.
And but just all of them brothers back then and just the uniformity.
Right.
On how things were done. I get somewhat excited about uniformity and those things that we supposed to be doing. So, I'd sit there as a kid and just look at them guys in white suits and black suits.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's an imposing figure.
Yeah.
when you see those guys on both sides, like even when we have all of our guys, in their place, we have one of those Sundays. It's an imposing image. First Sundays are a good image for me when I look out and I see the deacons and the deaconesses and the mothers, and I'm like, you know what? I am all for the modern church and everything, but this is a good sight to me. It's just from my view. Isn't it impressive?
It is impressive looking when you walk in and you see that.
Yeah,
it's very impressive.
And I think we got away from that image a little bit with the modern churches, and nothing wrong with having a different expression, man. But when you just see people at attention, in that place, that white, that black, I mean, it just does something. Now, some people don't quite get the white; they have off-white. Or a little dingier white than others. My good friend could never quite get the white suit. He was always showing up in tan.
He had a little difficulty.
He hadn't been to Howard's yet.
Yeah, he hadn't been there.
Yeah, but that image, you become a towering figure. You look up to them, and then, believe it or not, you become that.
Well, the importance of how, especially as we just talk about First Sunday.
Yeah.
On how important the Lord's Supper is.
Yeah.
The whole realm of what we do on First Sundays.
Yeah.
It's serious.
Yeah.
And I understand clothes don't make the difference and stuff like that, but any other organization like the military or things of that nature, there's some type of procedure or act that you go through.
Right.
That shows this is what these persons are a part of.
Yeah. And you're right with that, because I believe that special things require special preparation and a special approach. And because things like that, and I know it's frowned on now. It's like, well, you don't have to do all that. And I mean, I'll never be that guy to just be sitting on a stool in T-shirt and jeans talking about, let's take some bread and juice. It's always going to be something to it. Look at what we just saw with this coronation.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I mean, look at what we just saw. That stuff's going back in a shelf somewhere.
Right.
When it's all said and done. But I like the idea that you are putting real, physical, natural effort into special moments and special ministries in the church. It doesn't make you more spiritual than anybody else, but it does go to show that you have approached the moment with care and with caution.
Right.
And you need to be prepared and be there. I want to ask you, when you came into being a deacon, what was the toughest thing for you to get acclimated to or to get comfortable with?
Maybe probably visiting the sick and shut in.
Okay.
Just because, you've never done it before.
Right.
And then when you had to, and then sometimes you would see this member in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
That you've potentially known for a long time.
Yeah.
You've seen them digress, and we know we're supposed to go pray, but sometimes when you look at the person, all you can really say is just, Lord, have mercy.
Yeah.
So that was the toughest for me in the beginning.
Right.
But other than that, I didn't have too many difficulties.
Yeah. Deacons are a part of the leadership of the church, which means you become privy to a lot of the same information that the pastor might have. When I say information, I just mean what's going on in the church.
Right.
And what you just said about seeing a member who is really down, really low, sickness is taking its course. Maybe they become very elderly, they're shut in, whatever. It does something to you. And let's just be clear, 85 to 90% of the rest of the church, even if they're a well-known person and they're loved, the people are checking up on them and of course, calling and seeing on them. But for the majority of the church, it's a name in the sick and shut-in list. It's just another person we're mentioning we should pray for. But we have to take on the burden of going and not really knowing what to say, feeling inadequate even when you give your very best words of encouragement and God is in control and all the things that we would say to bring comfort, pray for peace. Then there's that fine line of at what point do you, and I'm grateful to be in a church where we we seek to submit to the will of God as opposed to imposing our own desires. Of course, we want everyone to be well.
Right.
We want everybody to get healed, but we know that might not be the path for
Correct.
everyone.
Correct.
So what do you know, when you're in that place and you're not sure if this person will ever come out of this condition, or the diagnosis is what it is. And we believe God can do miracles, but as I said today, we're not leaning in such a way that we act as if we should just bust through the door, which I've seen, by the way, some very unwise approaches in sick and shut-in ministry, where folk just come in and try to put on a revival in the hospital room. The doggone beep is about to start flatlining, and they just carrying on, so it takes some tact and some wisdom.
I've had to talk to family members.
Yeah.
The best way I could to let them know that what they're seeing is what is going to happen.
Yeah.
And like you said, you have to be tactful because they see it, but they don't want to believe it. And you actually preached a sermon some years back at a funeral, and you said, we are being selfish by allowing our loved one to want to continue to stay here.
In that suffering, yeah.
And they're suffering. Meaning, if they come out of this, what positivity of life will they have other than them just being here to say, my grandmama's still here?
Yeah.
But my grandmama can't do nothing. So like you said, you have to, when those situations arise, and those are the toughest,
right,
is to be tactful with, and you, through the help of the Holy Spirit will also help you, should help you. Sometimes it ain't for you to say nothing.
Correct. Oh yeah. Y'all need to have the spiritual gift of restraint. What does the Bible say? Study to be quiet. Because sometimes we're so eager to feel like we're supposed to be the voice to say something that we don't know when it's appropriate to say nothing. Now there's a flip side to this, Deke. And the flip side from seeing someone in a poor condition, you go to visit, you want to check on a member, you want to see, there's a flip side to this. And that is when you go and see someone and they doing doggone cartwheels in the church, and in the house, and
those are the people that I don't go see.
You don't go see. and you run into them after you've had this sob story, and they're out at the ball field or the football game or the mall, and I watched one lady put a refrigerator in the back of her car. And she was picking up her own personal refrigerator, like, she turned around and saw me. I'm still trying to make my way back.
Right.
And I'm like, because again, you got to hold in your personal feelings. You got to understand that everybody has a different way of approaching their life and their faith and their commitment. And while, your job, which is funny because I was asked the other week and to ask the pastor show, do you ever punt some hard duties to your deacons and say, hey, yo, go take care of that, But I do count on you sometimes to be the enforcers of the church and remind the church of our standards and our commitments.
That is the other part, or another part. And I'm just going to say, as a Second Baptist, I don't know about any other Baptist church.
Right.
Because we do know that as it relates to us being Baptists, that we have our own sovereignness. So we develop what's good for us. But our job is to, number one, lean and depend on Christ.
Right.
And then as it relates to the church, our job is to be your helpmate.
Right.
And then thirdly, our job is to the membership.
Right.
It's to the membership. So, and again, everybody likes running to the past, and that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For whatever the reason. But that is also one of our main responsibilities is the membership. So, and sometimes that's where issues may arise at times.
Right.
And you have to be careful, with both sides.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be careful with both sides.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of membership, let's talk about that side. How hard is it sometimes to balance concerns that are brought to you, criticisms, and, well, y'all better do something about that. you know, and that kind of, or tattletaling on other members, or all, you know, when you're just privy. Somebody asked, Scott, one of our viewers asked, discuss keeping people's confidence as a deacon. Like what needs to be told, what should just be kept. I'm sure that there are criticisms all the time. Every pastor that has a deacon board in a traditional church like ours, I'm sure there are people that are more comfortable going to someone in the church and saying whatever they're dissatisfied with, and or just bug them, or I was offended by this, or pastor never called me, or this, that, or the other. How do you balance when, hey, I think I should go say something, or maybe I should just handle this myself, or you know what? I know how they can be. I'm going to just kind of let it slide a little bit. Some folks just need to vent kind of a situation.
You got to think of all of those. You got to think about who done told you what they disagree with.
Right.
That's number one. That tells a whole lot of the story there.
Right.
And then, you know, you can tell them, the classic phrase to tell somebody that may have an issue is tell them to pray about it.
Okay.
Tell them to
pray about
earnestly pray about
earnestly.
Because
listen, that's a King James version. Earnestly pray. Because
again, we deal a lot with emotion.
Right.
So we get mad because you told us I sit here, then we got to go sit over there.
Right.
Okay. Right. And again, those are things that are not important to where, you know, we getting our gang together and we want to put this guy out.
Right.
So
that never happens.
Well, he said getting that gang together.
Hey, listen. Like, you ain't been in the Baptist church very long, but there are some sets in the church.
I'm still learning.
You got to rep your set in the church now.
We got to be careful.
You got to be careful, bro.
But you know, then depending on what you've been told, maybe you have to investigate.
Right.
And, you know, on behalf of the member, maybe you do have to sit down with the pastor.
Right.
Because again, we know when people tell us stuff about somebody else, it usually by the time it get to whoever they done told it to, it's really not the right story.
Yeah, it's something else. It's something else.
So before you put your neck out on the line, you need to ask for clarity.
Right.
Pastor, did you blah, 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 blah. And then where the member falls in at.
Right.
Where the member falls in at. You know, if your front porch ain't clean, you got to be careful.
Listen, y'all, this is gospel.
You got to be careful.
This is gospel.
And regardless of the preacher being the preacher, again, one good plus is if in fact you disagree with the preacher, you should be able to go to the preacher in private and discuss what you may disagree with. You ain't got to be no dog and pony show to show everybody that you got muscle.
Right.
Because the old way as deacons is gone.
Right.
And you know, and Pastor, I might be a little incorrect, but you know, the deacons back in the day came from these churches that was in the country.
Yeah.
Where these circuit preachers preached
once a month.
Yeah. Because they hit all these towns.
Yeah.
So they put a man in charge.
Right.
Until they circuit preacher or they preacher come back. So what had happened over the years, these men that they put in charge of the church till the preacher came, they just started attaining more power.
Correct.
Because they were there.
Right.
So they say when the deacon say something, you got to do it.
That's law. Yeah.
That's law.
Yeah.
But biblically, that don't even say nothing to that effect.
Well, you can't tell some deacons that these days because you know, and it's funny because first of all, that reality still exists down south in a lot of places where there are pastors who preach twice a month in their churches or they share churches and they're at one or the other. And then that mentality, because everybody knows once you get power, you don't want to give it up.
Let it go.
I mean, you got power with a purse.
Yeah.
And not just the purse when you think money, but also the personality of the church, which becomes a big issue. And I've had friends and peers, I've had conversations that thankfully they were conversations of understanding with our board, different ones. But I've had friends who have had far worse circumstances where it's almost an immediate, we don't do that here. And the basic reason is because the person in charge has determined We don't do that here.
Correct.
And it can be some very detrimental stuff. I've literally watched peers of mine, literally, we don't do outreach like that. We ain't doing outreach. We ain't about to be all on this. You come in here and have a good church, go home, blah, 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 blah. You know, or we're not welcoming people. When we say come as you are and be comfortable, we want to receive you, there's a lot of folk that still ain't up for that.
Correct.
There's a lot of folk that still aren't into that. And so I consider myself blessed that we do have a church that has the traditional values and approach and a lot of that structure and foundation to it, but an openness of heart to where we can fit in what fits the culture and to be relevant to a new generation and bring them in to what we know and teach. But that wasn't always the case. I mean, second, you know, let the truth be told, its first 50 years or so, it has some coming and going preachers. And it has some deacons who were constants through all those ministers that came and went.
Well, see, even back then, and see, these are just the changing at the times. I know back yonder, the deacons, you know, when we'd have nominating committee, they nominated through their group, through the deacon ministry.
Right.
Pastor didn't have no say so.
Right.
Nah.
Right.
That's what they
Not
determined.
today.
That's what they determined, so that's how they did things. But again, just like anything else in this life, as we transition and get modern and things change through the generations.
Right.
You know, I don't know what church does that now.
Right.
Where, you know, from a Baptist perspective, the preacher, the pastor,
Right.
appoints who he would like to be on his board and who he would like to be his chairman.
Right. Right.
Chair people. And that's all I know.
Right, no, that's the truth. You know, that's the funny thing, because speaking of not having a strong reality of deacons as a kid, I can tell you one thing my father always said. And it was funny because this was not the reality of our church ever, but he would say, don't no deacons run no church, and ain't no deacons gonna run me. And one time he came to second and preached like that, and he never got invited back. He never got that invitation again. But if you have questions, by the way, you want to ask any questions of Deacon Willoughby or myself, be sure to pop them in. I got a couple already that I'm going to throw at you. But Big Mike, you want to throw something in?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Deke. Being a deacon for so long in the Baptist church, the Baptist church has this certain structure and way they go about things. As far as the service is concerned, how hard was it, or was it hard at all, when Pastor Todd came in with the band and the sound system and the cameras and things like that?
Oh yeah, it was tough. Yeah, it was tough.
Here we go.
I'm sure I won't be back. But anyway, you know, Pastor Johnson had been there before for certain events that he spoke and preached, you know. But yeah, when he come in, let me just speak for me.
Okay.
It was a little something to get adjusted to. Not that I don't like good music and things of that nature, but again, when you've been in this mode, what our previous because again, when our previous preacher got there, second one used to that.
Right.
You know, when Dr. Hearns came, he brought a different charisma that, you know, we didn't have under our previous
that mic cord wasn't long enough for Dr. Hearns. He needed that mug wrapped up underneath.
You know, Dr. Hearns, when he got to go, a lot of people said, man, I heard some deacons had said, you know, well, this ain't no Church of God in Christ church. Well,
listen.
But that's how Dr. Hearns
That's how
preached.
it was.
Right.
Okay? But you got to then get yourself out of the way. You then got to get yourself out of the way.
Okay.
You know, good music in the band ain't gonna kill nobody.
Right.
You know, and if that's just your personal feeling, then that's just your personal feeling. But as long as, you know, the word of God is being produced, however it's being produced, and somebody's getting it, and you got folks coming down the aisle, then you just, I guess, just have a negative issue, but clearly
you just roll with it.
And again, Me and Pastor Johnson.
Oh, we've had some discussions.
We've had some discussions.
Oh yeah, and with the whole board, we've had some with the whole board. And I will say, as a pastor, in relation to the pastor-deacon relationship, or coming to a church of that nature that was structured that way. First of all, my predecessor did set a lot of things straight about the relationship between the pastors and the deacons of the church. So up until him, because somebody went and got him, and up until him, the dynamic had been skewed the other way.
Correct.
For most of the time.
Correct.
So it was that deacon-run church that we sort of infamously think about in a lot of ways, and Pastor Hearns through teaching and preaching. And it does take some fortitude. It takes some guts, to sometimes proactively turn the tide of where it should be. Because it's one thing to preach and teach it. I know a lot of pastors who preached and taught what the order of the church should be, but when business meetings come, they know when to sit down and shut up.
Correct.
They're not going, you're not going to force the issue. But I also know that as a pastor, and I've watched with my peers, especially us younger ones, there are a lot of wonderful opportunities to minister in traditional churches, and I'm just calling it traditional Baptist churches, and to begin transition of instilling modernity alongside what is there, if they would just exercise patience and honor and be willing to have those discussions. And some have just, off of the same discussions we've had, thrown their hands up, going, preach over the pulpit, all kind of stuff. And Lord knows I've had my moments where I've had to learn to mature. I ain't got to preach on, and the worst thing you can do is come into a situation like this one to prove a point. And you're now directing not the ministry towards what God is leading you to do, but what you just want to rebel against to try to show that you are better and superior than what has been. And that's almost never, ever, ever a winning proposition.
Correct.
Number one, honoring God.
Right.
Number two, for the sake of the membership. Because after a while, they can feel the pull and the tension. And somebody's going to lose. And let's just be honest. Most of the time, it's the preacher.
Right.
If you want to be this fighting guy, and I know several now that I've known and worked with, and they played that battle, and they in somebody's garage somewhere talking about New Beginnings Ministries with a camera phone and their wife and kids. So those conversations, they were tough. And one thing I will say, and I've said it on this show before, even what I have done and what God has allowed us to do at Second, at least at the pace we've done it at, has not been to the liking of some more progressive modern people, because they wanted us to just come in and burn the whole place down. And I had to back up and use some, first of all, just practical wisdom. I'm trying to keep my job.
Right.
First of all.
Right.
But also just the honor that comes with working with people who have been here before you got here and will be here when you leave here. And understanding that you're just another link in the chain.
Right.
And you want to leave the church better than you found it, and not tear up what's been established. You don't want to tear up. You want to build upon what's been established. And a lot of those tough battles have already been fought in other ways. And thankfully, our church has been through transitions. They had a band for a time before, and they allowed praise teams to come in, but doing it more permanent. And I will say the difference between myself and my predecessor is I'm far more involved in the worship.
Yeah.
My predecessor was a pure preacher. Yeah. That's what he was going to do. I lasted for about a month.
Yeah, he wasn't involved with no choir. The choir did what they did. He didn't say nothing. He just preached.
Right. What exactly, and we'll just speak in the context of our church, we talked about visiting. What are exactly the official duties of a deacon? What should a deacon, or what is a deacon mandated to do? If we don't do nothing else, you need to be doing these things.
Well, if we even go back to what, the Bible instructs us to do as qualifications of a deacon. But as far as the church, our job is also to support you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Y'all hear that, Deeks?
I
know y'all watching.
Our sick and shut in, whatever needed done for when we conduct Lord's Supper.
Right.
All right. Helping those that are in need when we can.
Right.
Being involved as much as we can.
Well, that's another area, by the way, that I punt to you guys when somebody says, Pastor, I need help. Call the deacons. I need my rent paid. Call the deacons.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's an uncomfortable place to be as a pastor. Yeah. You've got to make those decisions. But yeah, supporting.
And we as deacons ought to be able to teach.
Yes, sir.
And to pray. Wednesday night, and sometimes even I, lose thought of it. But Wednesday night is the deacons meeting. Prayer meeting is the deacons
The traditional
meeting.
Baptist deacons meeting. That's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
so that's really, and then also to a degree, the administrativeness of that we may be over or a part of,
Right.
as it relates to the church. In your absence or
Right.
things of that nature, to make sure that the service in your absence goes the way it is supposed to go.
Right. Or just the business of the church in general.
Business of the church in general.
Because I don't mind, and again, I know how I was raised, pastors, the head, the shepherd, the lead, the under shepherd, whatever you want to say. But I've actually found comfort when the arrangement and the power structure, if you want to call it that, is right. I find comfort in saying, hey, I'm going to send a text to my deacons and say, I'm thinking about this. We're considering this. Now, technically, I could just make an executive decision. But it's so much better to share that. And they appreciate being involved in the decision-making process.
And sometimes that's where the difficulty comes in.
Right.
Not that you can't make an executive decision, but if you include us,
Yeah.
it just makes things flow a little bit better.
And quite
because
frankly,
again, that's where, just we as black people get mad, when they run out of chicken and you didn't tell them.
Right. Oh yeah, that'll set it off right there. Don't run out of chicken.
Okay, so the more you would communicate, at the end of the day, the better things would be.
And I'll tell you, it sounds much better, especially in tough decisions that are appropriate to share with our deacon board, to say that we've decided, or we have consulted, or with the support of our board, that we're doing this, that, or the other, as opposed to I just came up. Now, there are some times where I say, I just feel led of the Lord, or I just feel what's wise right now. But it is a little bit of a buffer.
Right.
Because now somebody's got to come, not just to me, but to you and 3 and 4 and 6 other guys.
And, if we would run into any issues, finance,
Right.
things getting out of whack, that's our job to come to the plate and say, hey, we ain't going to do this no more, or this is what we going to try to put in place to fix it.
Correct.
To fix it.
Yeah. I got to ask the question as a deacon, and you might know how it was done or how I know how it is done now. Do you serve a term as a deacon in our church?
No.
Yeah. We don't do terms in our church. I know of churches that do that, where they roll off and then they have to take a year or 2 years break.
We tried it, but at one time, we had deacons and trustees together.
Okay.
And, when we had a bunch of them, then it kind of went away. Some deacons had passed on. So we got down to a low number, so that never did work.
Right. And let's be honest, in the average church, you're going to run out of men shortly. You 2 or 3 cycles.
Correct.
And you don't want just anybody.
Correct.
Up there. Now, you talked about the duties of the deacon and getting involved with prayer and all that, but there's another part you didn't say. You said being able to teach. You said being able to pray. But you forgot about being able to sing.
Well, and I've been told not to sing, so that's why I didn't comment.
But
I'm gonna tell you something. If I need to sing,
he will.
I will bust out and let Jesus lead you right now
In 4 different keys. And listen, I called myself on some Wednesday nights. I don't know if you remember getting on piano at the prayer meetings, trying to help.
Yeah.
But oh Lord,
no, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
No,
It didn't work. And everybody doesn't have that gift.
Yeah,
so how did you feel when you were first? Because we all know that when you get up to be a deacon in the black church, you're expected to stand on the line and join those brothers for the devotional period.
Well, let me tell you something,
How did you feel when the first
I didn't care. I went on and sung. I didn't care.
And if you have never, ever heard Deacon Willoughby lead a hymn, it is an experience that will try your relationship with God.
You'll never forget.
It's an unforgettable performance. And it is funny because watching the faces of people, and again, to me, it's the sweetness of the church, because you have to really love each other and have understanding of each other. Everyone has different gifts. And Deke is not this person. He might have some key problems. I got some ones that don't know the words. They just gonna make up their own version of the song. My beloved Deacon Boomer, we're calling him out, Deacon Nathaniel, beloved Deacon Boomer. He will pull a hymn out of 1822 that nobody remembers. Yeah. And he's got a good voice.
Yeah.
But you might as well just give up on singing with him on that.
Yeah, so I don't know that one.
Can we get back to Amazing Grace? You know, because he'll go way back in the chapel days.
Well, see, when I came up in there, the later years, Joe, when Joe was on the board.
The legendary Joe Jackson.
Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson could he got a tune.
Yeah.
So if Joe would lead,
right,
which he usually did, then we would all kind of come in.
Right,
and it wouldn't be so bad. But now, we ain't got a whole lot of.
We don't have to tone test the next generation. We have to do some get CJ on the keyboard and find out.
Well, we're gonna have to start just bringing a tape.
Start lip singing. have Deacons lip singing. Well, I tell you, I've seen some churches, and I'm pretty grateful for the deacon board that we have. But do you ever go into another church and size up somebody else's deacon board and just,
just all the time, all the time.
Like if we ever have to square up
all the time,
because you got to be ready. You don't know what you're going into. You don't know how you're going to be treated. I have found that there are a lot of characters. As I've said in ministry, I've been pastor for 10 years now. I've been in church all my life, and thankfully I've been to a whole lot of churches. It's not attending, not joining, but being around. Sometimes it feels like different names and faces, but the same characters. Like you can almost point out who the argumentative one is, or who the kind of quiet, slower one is, or who the one is that likes to talk, or the one that likes to sing.
Oh, yeah.
And after a while, you just go around, and sometimes I just wonder if we go to other churches, like, just like the Bloods and the Crips, and just kind of square up and say, listen, if Mount Zion feel a little froggy tonight, we just might have to.
Like you said, you scope them out.
Yeah.
And, I ain't never felt intimidated by them.
Now, there's another level to this, too, by the way. Because when you talk about sizing up, now let's go to Black Baptist deacon now. If you're going to be a Black Baptist deacon, you got to bring it correct with the wardrobe.
Well, I don't have any problem with that.
No, he don't.
Hey, put his picture up again. Put the title picture up. This is the deacon I got. You see that piece? You see that plaid?
That's a piece right there.
That's a piece right there. Listen, you got to come with it. And I buddy, it was a running joke when Tony Brown came with me over the second. He said, he got some pieces, I got some too. He's like, he said, boy, think he dressing, I got some gators from Detroit.
Well, you know what?
He had some.
But you know what? Brown would have been all right with some of his stuff. But he come in with his shoes untied.
Oh, no.
You can't wear no gators to have them untied.
His feet was hurt.
Well, that's too bad. That means you ain't correct.
You got to endure.
You understand what I'm saying?
You got to endure for the cause.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to come correct. You got to come correct. And this is, you have to be in the culture to understand this. Like, now it's just a Facebook meme. It's jokes about over. But listen, ain't nothing wrong with some good dressing brothers.
Yeah. Again,
on that front pew.
With me growing up in second, that's all I know is when we come to church, this is how everybody was dressed.
Yeah, you gotta be dressed.
And again, and I just, my father was a good dresser, and I just caught on, and I didn't let it go.
Now, Deke has been dressing like this since he was a young man.
Yeah,
he was dressing, but
might have been since I was about 8.
About 8 years old, he's been dressing like this. But the funniest one is, I know you are notorious for wearing some shoes out. Because you got a collection.
Well.
And you've had a few incidents.
Yeah, I've had 3.
You've had 3?
I've had 3.
Share the perils of the vast shoe collection of a deacon.
Well, if I broke down to you my system, you would probably think I was crazy. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Don't take us there.
But anyway, I know it was one first Sunday. And I had my white shoes on, and you preaching. And I just happened to look down, and the bottom of my heel was out in the out in the floor. And I said, I think that's my heel.
Your shoe had ran to the altar. The shoe wanted to be saved.
So I looked around a little bit to see if anybody was paying attention.
Did you find it back? You find a way to slip it back?
Well, I think maybe when you did one of them hoops, I lunged up. dragged it back with my foot. Didn't nobody know nothing.
How did you walk out?
Well,
with a limp?
Well, it was slippery.
Okay.
So we got carpet, so
right.
Just had to walk.
You just gotta shuffle a little bit.
That is funny.
And then my black suede, I call them my Church of God in Christ shoes.
Oh Lord.
Kojic shoes.
My Kojic shoes.
Erica said, "Stop it."
That toe up on me in church. My foot was out, and
the convocation specials.
Yeah, I actually had to go out with just one shoe on that.
One shoe.
Yeah.
Listen, this is a man that loves his dress clothes and his dress shoes. And he dresses well. He dresses well.
Yes,
hey,
he does.
One time he came in with the little fitted piece. I said, "You got a Todd Johnson special
Yeah,
on."
Todd Johnson special. I got a couple.
He had a couple slim. Somebody said, y'all used to laugh at Pee Wee Herman, and now all your sons are dressing like him to prom.
Exactly.
And I was about to put "and church." Lord have mercy. You got something, Mike?
Yeah, real quick. Again, the way everything looks and the way you guys are on the front pew, there's also a sense of safety in the church, seeing you guys in those positions.
Well,
now, wait. I need to cut in on this.
Okay.
Because it just might be the illusion of safety. Because more than once, somebody has made it up to that pulpit.
I wasn't there.
and I'm sitting like, I thought y'all was supposed to protect me.
Yeah, I wasn't there. But it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be.
Yeah. You're the line of defense.
Yeah. You
know,
got
all these modern security ministries and stuff, that just used to be the deacons.
Right.
Deacons were the ones that kept order and drag folk out. You get stupid. And we forget people can get crazy.
Oh, yeah.
In the church.
Some years ago, it happened a couple times. And again, I just don't get no action based on the side that I sit on.
He's not in close proximity
I'm not
to the action.
Now I point and say, get that person.
But that's the original security ministry.
Yeah.
And then you got to keep order and be supportive and answer to. Let's just be clear here. Church folk can get high.
Yeah. Oh, they can. Oh,
Church meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And I say it every year. I'm grateful that we have not had the experiences that I have heard about, but in all, you just hear about these tough situations where one thing leads to another, an insult is passed or an accusation is made, and the whole thing is just tore up.
Well, and I'm not getting into a whole lot of detail, but before you came, it was rough. It was rough just to the point because I was chairman. And I had heard all the horror stories from back in the day. Mm-hmm. But then now it's at my doorstep. And it was tough.
And isn't it funny that, like you said, you hear the stories about back in the day. And then sometimes you wonder, how could that happen? And then something rises up, some unfortunate incident or what have you kind of begins to fester or manifest. And it's people sometimes you did not expect or situations you just never thought would get to that level. And it gives you a better understanding of then because you have this idea of just this wild, wild west then, and then we're all good now. But what happened is that the right issue hadn't arisen yet with the right person for you to see. Because we're all human at the end of the day. And and I'll tell you, my wife and I did come to a conclusion. And maybe everyone doesn't agree with this. Y'all can take it how you want to take it. But both of us coming out of spirit-filled background, with everything being blamed on the Holy Ghost. If something was a disagreement, if there was a tension, it was always the Spirit. And then people would use it against each other. The Lord is telling me that you ain't right, and I just feel in the Spirit. Well, you know what? One refreshing thing about being in the Baptist church is people would just be like, I just don't like you.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I just think you X, Y, Z, and it's not. And we'll put a little bit on it, but there's a little bit of a clarity about your humanness next to the holy, task that we are with. But people aren't trying to wrap it up in all this jargon. And to me, it's while it can be difficult, it's actually more refreshing.
Yeah.
And you got to deal with that.
What you got to do and what I had to do is keep stating Bible.
Right.
Because personal emotion and what I think should happen, when you get to that level, that don't work. So the only thing you can do is keep telling the people what our responsibilities are, what the preacher's responsibility is according to this book.
Right.
Now, if you got an issue with the book, you got a serious problem with yourself.
Right.
With yourself. Because God is not the author of confusion, and we are in the house of prayer. There is a way that we are to conduct ourselves. And again, no, everything ain't going to go in our favor. But again, you got to pray about it.
Right.
And again, everything that happened, wherever we go, whatever we encounter on a daily basis, ain't always going to go in your favor.
Right.
And the church is the same as well. So don't expect, this to be perfect, because it's not going to happen.
Right. No, you're absolutely right.
But there's a way we are supposed to conduct ourselves in church, in worship, giving reverence, number one, to God and his house.
Right.
And that's just one of my, I don't play with that.
Oh, no, I agree. I
don't play with that.
And if you don't line up, I mean, he's got a piece, and I ain't talking about a suit.
Yeah.
Everybody's got, and that's real. I mean, first of all, in the crazy world we live in, you talk about protection, and Mike talked about protecting the church. And you got folk walking in, churches these days.
Right.
Shooting up and all that stuff. Listen, we have all given the look once or twice.
Oh, yeah.
When someone comes into the church and the deacons look around and see, and you can say don't judge all you want. You can say don't judge, but at the end of the day, you see a strange, shifty figure. Your mind goes, and you can either get accused of judging, or get caught off guard.
Exactly.
And that's a tough decision that we've got to make. There have been times when, let's just be honest, there have been times when people come in church, maybe not dangerous, but they're disruptive. Disruptive. So I was asked when I came to the church, because again, I come from a Pentecostal spirit-filled background. We're not a tongue-talking church. What you gonna do if somebody just jump up and just go off? And I'm not just talking about a little something, a little prayer. We just, believe it or not, Second's been there before.
Yep.
We've been there before. So all you people that got these, illusions about ain't no spirit in church. Oh, there's been plenty of spirit in the church. Plenty. But as far as someone just jumping up and taking over, I say, well, these brothers know what to do.
Yeah.
And if we have to go to commercial, we're like, doo-doo.
That's what we'll do.
That's what we have to do. And one grab one arm and one grab the other arm, because there does have to be order in the church. And people forget that the deacons are there to help keep the order of worship.
Correct.
And some stuff just can't be.
Correct.
Can I testify? No. It's just not going to happen. But also deacons, and I've heard some stories, and you can tell it if you want to, that the deacons would have opinions about the preachers or preachers, or guests and all that come in. And you had one, I forget the name, the one that when they would get going too long. When the preacher would get to going too long and the deacon would shout,
he'd say, that's enough.
That's
He'd say, that's enough. He said, that's enough.
That's it.
That's enough.
Cut it off, dog.
Yeah.
Well, one time I got close to that. It was before I was a pastor, and I was asked to preach it for the Ministerial Alliance Good Friday service.
I remember.
And Hearns gave it to me. Because I came at his recommendation. And I was getting in good, but I was a classic young preacher dragging my way through. And finally he said, make your point, Todd. He just said, make your point. But you need that sometimes. I mean, we get all offended and we think we being all super spiritual and stuff. But sometimes, and that's, I'll say it very clearly. If I had a problem with some of the modern churches or whatever, it's because I believe they're missing two things. They're missing some good mothers, and they're missing some good deacons.
Well, that
would keep that.
Yeah, that's one thing at Second I know has helped me is that good leadership.
Yeah,
with our church mother or our older saints that you can go to.
Yeah,
and the main thing is you can trust them with that you ask them, that it won't be out
in
the avenue somewhere.
Right.
And they're going to give you They're going to tell you the truth. And then if you like it or not, but then they're also going to give you the right direction.
Right.
Based on the word.
But they're also going to help regulate the worship.
Yes.
Sometimes without saying a word. Mm-hmm. So people can go off in the left field if they want to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you ain't got to do but to give a look.
Right.
Oh, that look go a long way.
They're going to sit there.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to fold their arms.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to wait for this disruption or this outburst. And again, you can call it, they quenching the spirit. No, sometimes they know better and that it ain't the spirit.
Right.
They know better that this is not a productive and fruitful part of the worship, and that if you engage and encourage some stuff too much, then all it's gonna do.
You know, that's some of my issue with some things is, do what you've been asked to do.
Oh yeah.
No more.
Yeah.
No less.
Right.
And then go sit down.
Sat down.
Yeah. This is not your you not on display. Because you've been asked to do this.
Right.
No, do this and then go sit down.
And you said it, a deacon needs to know how to pray.
Yeah.
And I've been all over. And I am disturbed by the number of people that don't know how to pray. Don't know what they're there for. They're asked to say the opening prayer and they're saying grace, giving a speech, just talking off the top. There is a focus that we forget that comes with it.
Yeah.
And you don't pick folk to serve in these areas just because they look good or give good and all this other stuff, but because they have the qualities and the character and the approach, not just the image. The image matters a little bit too, by the way, but the approach, because I don't want nobody up there sloppy and carrying on and doesn't strike an example.
Right.
Like you said, you come up and see these people. Mm-hmm. I know that 20, 30 years from now, my boys will remember Deacon Willoughby, Deacon Flanagan. They're going to remember Deacon Boom and Deacon Jack. They're going to remember these brothers. They're going to have seen them every week.
Right.
Sitting in their space.
Right. Doing
their duty and seeing that image of a man, which is a big thing for me when I hear about, in our community, as a black community, no men and these young men need this. Come to church.
Exactly.
If you get them boys' butts back in church, it ain't perfect, but it sure is better than the streets.
Because you're going to look at some men that are spiritual. Yes, we all fall short, but you got some men that are going to be spiritual. You got some men that have worked and are still working.
Right.
And they're being dedicated to something, not all over the place.
Right.
And still staying with it if you may disagree or some don't go in your favor.
And that's the thing. When people talk about dissension in the church and arguments, they do arise. Disagreements, conflicts, contentions. There could be just even a quiet tension. And we go through seasons, But the fact that people, and that's why I've been just going on and on and on in my little weekly videos about Black the Church. Because what I see is a consistency, just like a good long marriage, just like friendships that last. You ride the roller coaster, but you never get off the train.
Get off. Correct.
And that's what's missing from our culture.
Right.
Is
we want to quit.
You have all these stories, and some people, Second has some from back in the day. Miss Janice has sat in that office.
Oh yeah.
I even went back in the records and they wrote a few things down that was said. But I'm coming into a church that's still standing. And even many of the people who were involved or may have had a position or part in the conflict are also still there. Even if it takes time to get back to where you need to be, you're there. And I'm not encouraging anybody to be in a toxic, abusive, or exploitative relationship with anybody or any church. If you're getting beat down, church hurt is real. People do get treated absolutely just wrong. But other stuff is, I say often, humans being humans, just happen to be in church.
Right.
And the leaders hurt me. Well, somebody had to be the leader, and maybe the leader wasn't perfect that time.
The thing at Second is, with us being on that corner for as long as we have, regardless of stuff, you have members that love their church.
Absolutely.
Regardless of whatever.
They cuss you out.
But they love their church. They love Second Baptist. So, if we continue to keep instilling that in us, 20, 30, 40 years from now, that will never change.
Right.
That will never change.
What gives you the greatest joy and serving as a deacon, what moments are you proudest or have you been proudest besides becoming a deacon? Mm-hmm. What has brought you the greatest joy, or what moments make you the most proud to be a deacon and serving in the church?
Well, everybody gets excited. They can tell a story if they want to, but everybody get a little excited when the pastor asks them to do something, and then asks them to do something somewhat out of their wheelhouse to a certain degree. I enjoy teaching, so
yes,
when
sir.
my students and we're learning together,
right,
I enjoy that. I enjoy teaching. And again, second is my home.
right.
And, I ain't going nowhere.
I know you ain't. I know you ain't. And you need that. Mm-hmm. You need some folk that ain't going nowhere. The church I grew up in, I mean, no disrespect, and everybody knows. I've been more transparent about it, and people can take it however they want. I've watched my church go through 3 distinct phases of almost completely different, not just people, but also sort of atmospheres, if you will, or cultures, if you will. The phase of my childhood, that led up my father's era. When he became the pastor, there was a big changeover. And then when I was a young man and young minister, and my brothers joined, and we kind of became a whole different kind of church. It was just weird. And then I've seen some transitions after I've gone, and I just, look. Second, even with a lot of, and I don't know, you'd have to tell me, or someone older have to tell me, what era, especially in recent memory, might represent the most change of when people walk in and be like, oh, this ain't grandma. And I've gotten some of that. This ain't grandma's second, when they visit after 10 years or something, and they ain't been there since the late 90s. And they walk in like, okay, I don't know if I'm not saying in a braggadocious way, but I do know that there's still a consistent thread that runs through second, that honestly, it doesn't matter if there's screens up and church, and band and all, because truth be told, a lot of churches are doing that. A lot of folk are doing these things now. But there's a thread that is distinctly Second Baptist Church of Warren, that no matter who the pastor is, we didn't change the pulpit or did this, did that, it's just going, where you're at, what you're seeing and hearing, it's going to come back. And I almost wanted to, when we draw up an old hymn, sing an old devotion, start off our service, or bring the deacon. Sometimes we put y'all in the front. We do like we would always do. Where you're at.
Yeah.
And what you're going to expect.
Yeah.
And to me, that consistency is meaningful.
Well, I know one thing, and that is whoever the preachers there that have been there, we are not preached junk.
Oh, yeah.
Period. I don't know nothing about that. Now, I've been other places and heard other things, but at second, whoever has been our leader, they know Bible and they preach Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of hoopla and
Yeah, I get it. Could you mind sharing with us perhaps the hardest part about being a deacon, or the hardest moment that you've ever faced in being a deacon?
Well, the hardest moment, of course, was almost 8 years ago.
I feel a personal reference coming. It was a tough season. It was hard.
Yeah,
I can feel it.
It was difficult, but
I caused this stress. Y'all see that gray hair? That was me.
He is correct.
He had a fro when I came.
But I've never, there's been some things that I've disliked. And I made known that I disliked it. And then sometimes what I would do was get mad and then not come to church. Well, I'm only hurting me.
Right.
So I had to grow out of that.
Right.
But I love second. I love the folks at second. I don't wouldn't wish to rewrite history.
Right.
It was supposed to go how it was supposed to go for my benefit.
Right.
For my growth. And you
got a lot ahead of you. You got a lot of deaconing to do. You look at old Joe and Stovall and them. You got a little ways to go.
Yeah, I'm actually third in seniority.
Third in seniority.
But I'm the youngest.
But you're the youngest. Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. Well, one day we're going to have that picture up on the wall in one of your pieces. Hey, Grover's going to have he going to have a rotating picture where every month he got to put up a new picture.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
He's like, no, it's springtime now, Doc. You got to bring that cream out. I love it. Big Mike, shut us down. What's happening?
Oh, man, great episode. Dick, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your insight, your wisdom, your honesty also. Again, coming in a second, seeing the structure and how things go. Dude, you guys got it down, man. You guys got it down. I'm very, very impressed. I'm very happy that I joined and, being a part of the Second Baptist family. Yeah, man, keep up the good work, man. Keep up the good work. Second, I would like to shout out Lady Shar Dela Cruz for tuning in.
Yeah, hey, First Lady, good to see you.
Real good to see you.
Good to see you.
Let Pastor Angel know that he's due.
Oh, he's due.
Yeah, I like to have him on at least once a year. So yeah, it's about that time.
Hey, he's due to come preach a second.
Okay.
I haven't had him.
All right.
It's time.
Okay.
That's a preaching brother.
Yep. That's all I got, man.
You know what? I want to say to what you just said, Mike, about coming in and seeing the structure. Again, going back to that appeal to a new generation, we have to remind ourselves that when you're coming, and this is my insight personally as a millennial, old millennial, young Gen Xer, I'm right in that in between space, that many in our generation have not seen any of this in the flesh. We were raised in the generation of not having to go to church. Right around my age group is where it just cut off, didn't have to go. So once you cut past the noise of social media and movies and media and just stuff you've heard from people, a lot of people either A, have not been to church at all to truly see what the structure and the feel is, or, and I mean no disrespect, but this is religiously incorrect, they went to churches that were not well structured and broad. With 80% of churches being very small, and especially in our area, even going to a medium-sized church that has actual boards and ministries that many of us haven't seen in 30, 40 years. Whole lot of folk haven't seen churches where you actually had folk, a staff, a board. It wasn't all just one guy driving the van and leading worship and one good mic and all that stuff. So that cuts a different image. And if you pair that with true, genuine concern for people, and a desire to reach your community. And that's what I've always wanted to do, is bring this side, that is the structure and the legacy and the history of the church, with this other side, this world that has not experienced it, and kind of bring that wild side into this more a regulated side, so to speak, that beautiful things can actually happen, because I've said it forever. We're a generation that's dying for structure. We just need to be exposed to it and see it at work, and like the toxic forms of it, get an understand that humans are humans, and perhaps see who can grow up into this thing. We've seen it with the new batch of brothers and deacons and that are coming into that phase. So we're the proof in the pudding, and I've said it not to be belligerent towards others who have some other way of doing ministry, but we're the proof in the pudding that the traditional church can thrive in its proper place in the kingdom. It can and will, if you do it the right way.
I mean, there's not nothing that's successful that we will ever put our hands or endeavor to do. It has to have structure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Period.
Yeah, this Wild Wild West church stuff is killing us, to be honest. And so I'm glad for what we have, and glad to, again, move the needle in an appropriate fashion where it needs to move, while you're keeping foundations in place that can be built upon in the future, just like we built. Every pastor brought something with them. Every new generation brought something with them. And so we want to bring something with them, not necessarily bring the church down. And so I appreciate you all watching. Thank you for tuning in. Pastor Jeff, we really do miss you. I was looking forward to bringing him into this discussion. Again, he is doing okay. He even put up a prayer request for himself. I think he's being a little dramatic, but, he's all right. He's good. I can't wait to have him back, man. We got a lot to talk about. Told y'all he turned 50, man, and it all went downhill on him. It's just over. We got this cane and Walker over here in the corner ready for him, and he can't even get back. We're gonna have a religiously incorrect sick and shut-in list and put Pastor Jeff on it. Hey, y'all, any last words?
I'm good.
We good? Hey, keep following us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you listen to your audio podcast. Cue us up. I'm sure you've missed something tonight and you can catch it next time. Hey, if there's any subject matters that you'd like us to touch on, send us an email or an inbox or a comment. Maybe we haven't touched on a subject, or we probably did and you missed the episode. But whatever the case is, we want to keep engaging with you. Until next time, see you for the next Sunday night service. Thank you so much, Deacon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Y'all take care.
Peace.